I laughed. Joe messaged me today. What does this cabinet committee that Irene, the chair of, do? I'm like, I don't know. I could tell you what a cabinet committee did under the NDP, but I doubt it's what a cabinet committee does. I don't know.
But why don't you know? It's 7 on the dot now.
Okay. I mean, the room's full. We may as well just get started. Hey.
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I don't know if this amplifies it or does. It does a bit. Yeah, it does. Okay. So good evening, everyone. It is right 7 o'clock. So I think we'll get started to provide lots of opportunities for conversation. I'm Danielle Larrabee. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Slave Lake Homeless Coalition Society. And happy to have this opportunity to have a conversation this evening. So I want to start by saying what this isn't. We aren't the town. We aren't the Planning Commission. We don't have authority to approve development decisions, and this isn't a hearing. What this is and who we are is we are the Slave Lake Homelessness Coalition Society, and our mandate is to, on behalf of the community, come up with solutions in order to eradicate homelessness and to help build and provide conversation so that we can have a relationship that's supportive with those who are homeless in our community as well. So what tonight is about is having a conversation about who we are, about what our long-term goals are, which is to eradicate homelessness, but more so to talk about what our plans are for this coming winter regarding our temporary MAP program for the winter season. We do want to be good neighbors. We do want to be good community members. So it's important to us that we have a conversation. We provide opportunity for people to ask the questions they need to ask and provide the feedback they need to hear so that we can be solution focused and come up with a plan together that will not only help to eradicate homelessness and provide a warm shelter for our homeless this winter, but ensure that we do it in a way that works for our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie to introduce herself. Jackie is our newly hired executive director, and she'll tell you a little bit about what we have going on right now.
Does this have a thing to move the slides?
Oh,
no.
I have
Does
no
this
idea.
Have a thing to move this? Oh, can I flip it?
Oh. I will.
We can just reach.
Technology.
We'll just reach it.
I will. I can reach it.
Okay.
You just give me directions. You want me to?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you guys all for attending our first public meeting. I'm going to start with a little introduction because I have received some phone calls that no one recognizes my last name and that I'm not from the community. So my name is Jackie Fremo, and I am the new executive director for the Slave Lake Homeless Coalition. I was born and raised in Ontario. I moved to Alberta in 2016 following my husband's career. I have 3 little kids, and I'm currently completing my Bachelor of Social Work. I'm brand new to Slave Lake. I moved here officially last Monday. So I'm a brand new resident. I love it here so far, and I'm excited to make Slave Lake my home. As Danielle said, the purpose of our meeting tonight is just to introduce the members of the Slave Lake Homeless Coalition to the community, go over our proposed plans, and answer any questions you guys might have to the best of my ability. As stated, I am brand new. So who we are, Slave Lake Homeless Coalition is a group of like-minded people who have a mission to help end and prevent homelessness while ensuring immediate needs to those experiencing homelessness are met. We envision a world where everyone has a decent, safe, accessible, and affordable home. Our mission statement, to break the cycle of and to eradicate homelessness in Slave Lake and surrounding region by raising awareness, compassion, and personal empowerment for those traumatized by society, and by cultivating empathy and trauma-informed change across all current support systems through collective actions. So our temporary emergency MAP program. Oops, I don't need to go that way. That's fine. So the temporary emergency MAP program is a program the Slave Lake Homeless Coalition is looking to run this year. They did run it last year, and as well as years past, the Native Friendship Center had ran it, as well as the Salvation Army, I believe. So basically, we would have mats available and provide an overnight shelter to people experiencing homelessness. Our program will be open from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. All participants would receive one hot meal and as well as breakfast in the morning before they leave. The temporary mat program will be fully staffed by security personnel. Yeah.
That's good.
So I'm going to go on that. We'll answer the questions to that after. So last year, between October 30th, 2021 and April 18th, 2022, 106 different individuals were seen over that period at the MAP program. That averaged between 4 to 25 individuals a night. 35% of the participants were female and 65% were male. And 84% of those participants were of Indigenous ancestry. So our proposed location is the southeast corner of the fire hall, as in the big green square that's on that page. It would be in the back right corner if you're looking from here. So there would be, there is going to be, if this is our location, a road allotment. So the clients wouldn't have to walk all the way around Caribou Trail. There would just be an allotment onto 6th Ave. And together we can make a difference. And then if you guys have any questions, we are here to answer them.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this off. I did want to make it clear, and Jackie did say this, but there will be access from 6th Ave. So they would walk past the gathering place and have access. So the apartments are on one side of the street, and then they would have access to the shelter on the back side of that lot on the other side of the street. So.
Yep, so there will be a temporary roadway put in. So if we need RCMP, fire, the staff can go in, paramedics, those sorts of things. Yeah.
Mhm.
I asked, like, why is that location overlapping?
That's a great question that I think a lot of people have. First of all, last year's location was a desperate attempt to have a solution somewhere, anywhere. It was zoned only by on emergency basis. The space was not well designed for the service that we provide. As well, that space is currently rented out as well. So the other space in that building would require substantial renovation. It would require a substantial zoning process to do that. The site that we're talking about right now is owned by the town of Slave Lake, so they're able to allow us to use that. It's zoned appropriately, so the process of using it for a site just was a lot more reasonable. So I mean, last year's site isn't even accessible at all because it was rented out, and it was never an ideal situation in the first place, and we were desperately hoping to avoid it, actually. Yeah. Yep.
So you haven't heard yet. What's the infrastructure you guys bringing in? How many trailers? What's this gonna look?
Yeah, so it'll be one trailer, 12 by 60 is the dimensions on it.
I just need some.
Yeah, it's a camp trailer, as well as a wash cart. So it'll be a cart with two separate washrooms, one for males, one for females. So it's a one straight open room. There's no divided rooms inside of it. So we're, as of right now, we'll be able to house about 15 a night. Yeah.
Is this a temporary spot too? Or is it permanent?
Yep. So this is a temporary location for us. Yeah. So it's just an emergency thing until April 30th of 2023.
I mean, to clarify, it didn't require rezoning in an emergency way because it was
Oh,
already
sorry.
zoned appropriately. So to clarify, what happened last year was different than this year. But yeah, the intent is that the program is for this year and this winter. And that's all the conversation that's been had around this, that it's for this year.
So it is my understanding that about $25,000 of the services have been donated to be put in there for this temporary 6-month period. I find that to be a lot of wasted money. This is a temporary. That sounds very determined to me. What is your plan every year to spend $25,000 to Beacon services kind of different?
I mean, our plan is to have a permanent location eventually. Where that's going to be, we don't know. We were formed last year. Last year was a huge learning curve for all of us. Funding has changed since last year. So we're still trying to figure out what that long term will look like. But because our plan is to eradicate homelessness, we do want to see a permanent facility that's 365 days a year as opposed to a seasonal program. But we have no details on that for you because none of that is planned yet. There isn't another place. There isn't. And so the requirement to do what we have to make sure that they have a safe place is what we're doing in order to make that space. Hopefully the town and the fire hall will have some opportunity to utilize those services in some other way in a future way. So our community benefits from that. I mean, it is town owned property. So it is highly possible that the use of those would be facilitated. I mean, they have a massive fire training facility. Maybe they might want to use it to enhance that. I don't know. What I do know is we don't have another place that works right now in this community that wouldn't require a massive amount of zoning and renovation. So do we put in servicing into a town-owned property? Do we try to rent something and put a massive amount of renovations into it? Something is going to cost us a certain amount of infrastructure. And at least this way, the cost of it is going back into a community-owned property.
So one question
Mhm.
is, I know that there was a lot of trouble with drug dealing with the security issues last year. What have you guys done to change that for this year? Because it seemed like more dangerous situation and not a safe place at all as to what.
So I can't speak to last year because I was not here last year. All I can speak to is this year and going forward. So I have been in contact with Canadian Mental Health Association out of Kamloops. I've been in contact with the Mustard Seed out of both Edmonton and Wetaskiwin. I've been in contact with a shelter out of Fort McMurray and as well as Red Deer. And I have received every single one of their policies and procedures and how they run their exact programs. The Kamloops program has been successfully running for 50 years. So I am in the process right now of reviewing everything that I have been given. And I will be making sure that our policies and procedures are in line with some of theirs, because if they can run it successfully, why recreate the wheel? As well as I'm doing interviews for all of our staff. I don't know anyone who worked last year. I know nothing about them. I don't want to. I'm going into this completely unbiased. Every single applicant will have the exact same process. They'll have to obtain a security clearance before they're allowed to start work. And I just hope that I can work with kind of some of the things that I'm sure I'll be made aware of from what happened last year and all of these guidelines and policies and procedures, and just make sure that we have a successful year. I also want to have open communication with the surrounding community and well, the community as a whole, that if you're hearing something about our staff, to address me personally, because I would like to know, and then I can address our staff. I don't want to hear about this, the next season or 6 months later. We can partner together and figure this out, but I know that there will be very strict rules in place for our employees, as well as the participants of the MAP program. There will be a curfew going in for the MAP program. Residents of the MAP program will be expected to adhere to strict guidelines and policies. And I just hope that my year this year is nothing like it has ever been in the past, and we have a successful year.
And can I just, Edie, just add one thing to that? And that's to say that last year we were running a 24/7 program. That was funding that we obtained. We obtained it with like no notice. It was basically like open tomorrow. I never want to try to build a program as it's running ever again. It did lead to a lot of bumps and challenges along the way, which is why we're doing it the right way, why we started way back in the fall, why we're only doing a MAT program this year and we're not open during the day, because we know how to do that and we know how to do that well. And we can make sure that we can successfully run that program and look to the future to run a 24/7 program when we have the time and the facility and the policies and all of that in place in advance of it before we do that. So it is apples and oranges to a lot of extent, because we're not running the same program this year as we did last year. So
what's the tie-in after hours? Hours are. Plus, and these folks are then out the door and we're off the next. And so not a lot of people are function centers, you know, what's. After. And part of the, already. There. And all these people that can come in there after 9 AM, where do we go? In our blocks, county gathering. For the apartment building, or just kid living, or down the street where he live with that kid, where these people go from 9 AM to 6 PM.
I mean, I can speak this to this a bit and Jackie might want to supplement it, but we don't have 24/7 programming. We don't. So that's not available. There is a certain amount of support that the Friendship Center will provide, not all day. They're not going to be there all day, but they do provide coffee and meals and showers and things at times to folks. And we're very thankful for their support of that. Sometimes the library works with them as well. So I don't have the perfect answer to that. What I can say is if they're not in our program from 9 PM until 6 AM, then where are they in the community? And certainly I knocked on every single door in those 2 apartment buildings, and 100% of the people there said, go for it, because we actually have a lot of issues with them around at nighttime now. So now I'm not saying 100% of them answer, but it was about 50%. And I had not one person say they didn't want it there, because they felt at least then they would be during the nighttime hours.
Just my comments, you know, you guys said
Mhm. Mhm.
Needs to be fixed, but you guys say that, you know, as not programming, this folks, you know, it's spring.
Mhm.
Well, you know, as a resident who lives in the Northwest
Mhm.
and with my career, we will be the neighbors at a small service, like we're in POA. And we're already dealing with that, we're already dealing with it for years. Where was the consultation on that? Because I feel like that statement is false, and the fact that, you know, you guys say we consult with everyone, well, you like to know that the services well under there right now. I've been watching these services across the fence. I guess where was the consultation with the surrounding businesses that provide massive taxpayer money to the company and will be probably the most affected by it,
Mhm.
because at
Yeah.
9 AM, you're across the, literally right across the fence, or they can come to us, or they can, you know, and I don't feel like the business side that we were consulted last week, and the services are in ground.
Mhm.
So.
Mhm.
Or in the ground, or it wasn't approval, that's huge. We should have installed with this.
Okay, I'm going to take a question over here.
Oh, I've been doing that like 20 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm great for the apartment building, so.
Mhm.
pretty close. You know, so I'm just. I don't know what initiatives they're taking, what time they've done it before it's called, I mean,
Mhm.
because like they need to figure out a long-term plan that's actually gonna be successful. That's gonna be the safe area for everyone in the community. This has been a problem for a decade, 22 years old. There's about 1 million homes in the room that think of. Many more ideas and methods. I'm just kind of mindful that it's still not a solution, not successful, and honestly, okay with everyone in the community. You know?
Mhm. Yeah. Can I no, I'll just answer her question first and then I'll be happy to take yours. We've been actually really thankful with this town council for stepping up with huge support in terms of not only the practical support of locations and conversation.
So unfortunately, that's above us. Like, we're not the town, as she said in the previous thing.
Yeah, so you're right. And there are some town council members here. They're here as observers. They're not here to represent the town. We're here as the Homeless Coalition to share our thoughts on it. But what I will say is they don't own it. They're paying for the rental of it on our behalf. So the town has actually stepped up and contributed to help to make this happen. So it's not that there's an ownership of it on the part of the town. It's a rental. Mhm. Mhm.
People buy something out.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very seriously.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, basically, there's a little bit of federal dollars for homelessness. There's nothing provincially still at this point. So realistically, it's about all coming together and coming up with the plan. Like Barb and the Friendship Center did an amazing job off the side of their desk with not hardly any money, right? But I mean, that kind of resourcing was never going to kind of have the long-term plan. So I started at the beginning to say that our long-term plan is elimination. We're not there yet because we don't even have our nonprofit status yet. We have society status, thankfully, but we're a new organization. But certainly what you're talking about is why we exist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 And they have. That has been our experience. The town has really stepped up, and it helps that we have a couple of counselors on that. And then you had a question.
Well, my concern is location, and I don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
But what I actually watched, homeless people downtown.
Mhm.
After picking up some like my daughter.
Mhm.
And they're so cold standing out there, and they want to get that's in the Friendship Center.
Mhm.
But trying to get to the Friendship Center before 9 o'clock. And
Mhm.
you know, they have, and there's not reasons why they were there on time.
Mhm.
My concern is getting them at -40
Mhm.
from downtown to that part of town. That is like, what is that an issue? Is there, has anyone considered how that's going to be done?
Mhm.
I know that, because sometimes you have a bus system that they do, you have a big number change. And I think for me, it's a distance from where they like to. I don't live downtown for. I work downtown, and I know that when they do, and probably say, they want to
Yeah.
go downtown.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think of going left or right for Main Street as you're heading north on Main Street, it's not actually that far down compared to the Friendship Center going right instead. I mean, there's lots of people who live in those apartments who are accessible, and that's their home in town. There's communities who have built homeless facilities way out in the country and had to have transportation in that sense. And we're not going that route. We never considered that acceptable. This is still, you know, within reason where, you know, a lot of people in the community would say that's close. So is there anything perfect in terms of a solution? I don't know, but all I can say is that in the downtown core right now, there wasn't a space that would have met our needs without rezoning and without a massive amount of infrastructure changes to it. So both time and money that we couldn't afford for this winter. Do we want to talk to the community about a long-term location and a long-term solution? You bet we do, but I don't have all the answers to that right now.
Wait.
Mhm. Mhm.
Here's the solution that
Mhm.
I see on days when it's -20, -30. We don't shut that thing down. That they get to stay there until it warms up.
So that's what I was just going to comment on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? You can't take them out
Mhm.
if it's -30 or -30.
So in our MPC application to the Municipal People's Council, we actually have a contingency plan that if the weather drops, we don't have all the details laid out to the exact temperature yet, but we're working on that. But when the weather drops to a certain temperature, it will not be closed. So it'll be ran for 24 hours. Or if there's an outbreak of an illness, I know COVID's still around, that we can still run that for 24 hours. So they're not having to leave.
Because I don't want to take that to my next concern. And talk about the location area, there's some, yes, some towns we haven't out of town, but we're gonna find there's not a lot of them.
No, I know, and that's why we didn't want that. So that this isn't, I mean, it still is a reasonable walking distance, although we are aware of the cold. So I'm gonna come back over here.
I'm just gonna re-ask my question.
Okay.
It's not just real simple. Why were all of the businesses in the area being residential?
So, and this is where there's differences in process. As the people who wanted to consider using the space, once we got approval, we did go out and start talking to the people in the community about what we intended and what was coming. But that was, I mean, that was relatively recent. There is zoning processes, which I can't speak to, and or approvals processes around the municipal approval process. I can't speak to that whatsoever, but that was where our engagement happened.
And also from my side, I was hired September 7th. I was told that, you know, we have to have an application into the MPC. I can't remember the date off the top of my head now, but I think it was late September. So I had a couple of weeks to, first of all, familiarize myself with the community and this role and get an application in. So after this application had went through, I did start going to the businesses. I know maybe it's a little bit later than some businesses would have liked to have seen. However, I'm just doing the best I can with the time that I've been with the coalition.
You do understand. Really, a lot of this.
I was gonna say, from a mental standpoint, it would not sound like good on your point. I would not say that, but that's very. I would volunteer stuff. I've volunteered, I'm for shelter, I'm 2 years old. I don't know how it is. So we live on the second. Yeah, well, I live. The whole reason I volunteer as an animal, and told the police come in. And they make note that all of that are criminals. You can't just like, what is it, like. Use them as your feeling, not everyone's feeling.
So we will, yeah, I just want to jump in and realize. Okay,
guys.
I want to jump in and sorry, just bring it back to a chance to have a conversation and answer questions. I realize that there's some strong feelings around it. I think the strongest thing I would say is that in terms of this is if they're not in the MAP program at night, and this is the site that we have to offer, then they're going to be on the streets and they're going to be in camps. And those camps are mostly in the area back in the woods behind there. Anyway, so I think this actually in many ways is a mitigating factor for those who are concerned about nighttime activity, that for those who choose to take advantage of this program, that they will have a place where they are safe at night and they are warm, but also it means that they are in a secure place for the evening as well. So I think there's an opportunity to recognize that I think we're very happy that they'll have a warm, safe place, but also a recognition. And this is what I heard from many people in the apartment was that there actually are a lot of individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who are in that area at night anyway. So they were actually happy that there would be a place where they would be able to find shelter during the night as well. So
I also spoke with Apex and we, not a solution, but we did offer that there will be security cameras. And we offered that we could point one at the fence that was located right across from the road allotment, and as well as having extra security lighting and making sure that that area is well lit. So is it an answer to that exact question? No, but will all of the happenings that go on there be on camera? Yes, and it will be well lit to hopefully deter people from cutting through fences or causing a disturbance in that area.
Question, where was it last?
So it was in, I don't know if it's called All Type Rentals anymore, but the building where Burgers Plus is next to Best Tea in the strip mall. Across from Progressive Realty, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. What I would say is there was someone who was not a member of our program, who in the business, in Best Tea did bother someone. So, it was coincidental. They weren't, a person who was participating in our program. So, there was a little bit of concern, around that, but in the end, it didn't fall back, to our program. Pardon me? Mhm. 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 Mhm.
I now walk down, Urban Trail to try to do the march.
Mhm.
Having called also to nature, and currently my mom and father, I have a single mom who's going to be I am the daughter of this conversation.
Mhm.
She is also.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to be pretty blunt and say if there was an easy solution for any of these individuals, mhm. Mhm. Okay. So you think not having a program is going to enhance your safety?
So
Okay.
if we don't put it here and we don't have a location, they're going to continue staying where they are.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no,
go ahead,
Barb, go ahead.
I'm Barb, on the street, I don't know me. But I live in some of the conversation or something, I'm wild. I've worked after the homeless for 5 years, as a spender, at St. Peter's Church. I stayed with them all night, all by myself. There's been up to 18 men and women in there. I fed them, I looked after them, made sure they were safe. They all respected me, my room. I had room. There was never no incident. I had very few. I used to work with the World War II. They came in, they had coffee with us, they walked to them. So we never major. For some purpose, we help you. They come to your home. You would take them to some night. You would never say, also, it really bothers me when people say, you know what, these people are scared of them. Also talk to them, learn from the name from. Find out who they are, they're people, they're students, they have families, they're cared for. We lost 2020 in 2006. These are my people, my family. And I want to leave anyone. We have to have and we have to be nice to them. If I want to be together in that certain place, because they have the right to live. They have the right to breathe, just like everybody can do. And I don't want to hear people say I'm afraid of them. That's over.
Okay, thanks, Barb. Mhm.
So it's
Yeah, Susan.
Want to be involved, it's not addressing the problem. Okay, so I think what we need to do is we first need to find out, are the homeless the people who are committing those crimes in that area? So Don, you're here.
We're gonna put you on the spot, Don.
There are certain people that are on our radar and we'll take them. What I can speak freely about is, the homeless people that use the map program are not. The people that are hostages and how we made stuff. We need to report that, we need to have that on record, we need to identify these people. We need you to come to court, we need to lay charges against them. When they go to court, provide a victim impact statement. And that gives a lot of clout for the judge, as proper steps to do. So I encourage you to call the police, follow through, and that's how action will be taken to the courts.
So we discussed that now, and I that it speaks of educated here, there is the homeless that are causing that crime. That's not true. So we shouldn't be going there.
So my thing is not homeless shelter, so I should get that part clear. Where it's being put is more so it's not central. I feel awful for the people that they have to walk from up at Walmart all the way down. I live in the Northwest, it is not mostly area whatsoever. It is already, we have the low income housings and the stuff my kids have seen who are under 10, the stuff they've seen on our street. Just from the Northwest, the Northwest in general, it's not only out there, I feel awful that they have to commute from way out there to all the way down there. It's the location that's awful. It's like, because we are the upper side of town, because it's the low income housing, let's just throw this in there, and then you get all the bad slack that people think it's homeless people. It's not. I know it's, I waited them, I've seen them when they were the cyber spots. It's not them. It's the fact that they're getting thrown in the same because we live in the Northwest.
Yeah, so I want to be clear on a couple of things. I think first of all, we need to say that we don't have a plan B. We don't. We last year ended up with a far from ideal solution on an emergency basis. So they had a place to sleep, and even that is not an option this year. So it is town property or bust. Like we don't have a plan B. If we don't go ahead with this, to be clear, we don't have another warm, safe place for them to sleep and stop. There is not a plan B. So I want to be clear on that regardless of whether the location is ideal, it is at least a location, which is the alternative is none. And the other part I want to say is we didn't put it we didn't select a location in the Northwest for any reason other than the town owns very few pieces of property themselves. And this was one of them that seemed to be most ideal, that there really isn't based on working with the town staff, a lot of options in terms of town owned.
Just one sec, sorry.
Mhm.
To be completely transparent,
Mhm.
we are a nonprofit society. We have very limited funds. The Homeless Coalition applied for the Rural Development Network grant, which we were given $55,000. $55,000 for an entire season to house, feed, staff a homeless shelter. So we turned to the town to ask them for help because $55,000 is not enough money to do really anything with. And the town offered up a solution of using land that they own and providing a donation of a trailer. So that eliminated the cost of having somewhere to put them, having a warm, safe space, those sorts of things. I understand, all the concerns that are being raised, but working with the small budget that we have, it's
Yeah, and I do want to clarify, we had a very generous private donation specifically designed to hire Jackie so that we could get the program off the ground, so we could apply for grants. So none of those dollars are paying for Jackie's salary. That was an incredibly generous anonymous, I guess. Anyways, they didn't want to share who they were. Local donation to do that. So I'm so thankful we have Jackie because she's starting to look for the funds so that we can look to the long-term planning, but that's not where we are right now. We have October 25th right now. This is what we have.
I don't know if you noticed, but when you woke up this morning, the ground was white.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that's all we have applied at the pressure paper for 5 years. to run
Yeah.
that program. What I would like to mention though also is the trailer you're getting, is that rented or is that?
It's rented. Yeah. Yeah, it is rented. Yeah, no, it is rented and
Giving public notice to where the trailer is from. And how much are you getting paid for the trailer?
It's in the- When you have to get that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was like a place that rents camp trailers, is what it was. It was like one of the companies who offered us the best deal. So the details are, the town council, you can see them in the minutes, but it's no, yeah. There's not a conflict. I feel confident in that. Now, Sherry, just because you spoke already, I just want to see, has anyone who's not spoke, I'm happy to go back to people, but is anybody who's not spoken yet that wants to say something? Go ahead. Mhm. Mhm.
It's 1976, and I just want to read this morning, brother, he's homeless. My brother George here, on the streets in Vancouver for 20 years until my brother Doug rescued him. They called him with the smokes because he picked cigarette butts, took them apart and made smokes for the elders. My brother celebrated 40 years of sobriety in June. Husband volunteered at the Friendship Center in Kelowna every day, doing dishes, making salads and helping with the fish. And never missing a day's work. And he loves these people like they do his own family, which they are. All family, this is all compassion which Jesus had. I am very proud to call him my brother. We are the last two left, son, daughter, niece, and nephew of residential school survivors, our mother, and two uncles. And I lived in across from Lorenzo since 1976, and we've never ever had a problem. And I'm not scared of the homeless people. It's the young ones and the drug addicts. That's what I'm scared of, you know. But we've never had a problem.
Yeah, no, thanks for.
And I love where I live.
Thanks for sharing that. And so our model going forward, I don't know if any of you are familiar, but Medicine Hat was actually able to eradicate homelessness in their city essentially by following a housing first model. So our long-term plan absolutely is to have a continuity of housing. This is a really basic step. Just so you know, our clientele includes some people who are chronically homeless. They have very deep-rooted issues. We can provide all the support we want. Statistically, they're highly unlikely to not be homeless at any point. We will provide support for them forever. But we have a substantial number of people who come in and out of our program who have fallen on hard times and need a warm, safe place to stay at night. They quite often have a job that they're going to. They just don't have a house to go to after they're done work at the end of the day. So I think there's a lot of assumptions around who the homeless are and what they are. I'm really thankful to Dawn for talking about who the people in our program are, but also to just clarify that we do have a mix. We have those who are chronically homeless as a result of having profound trauma in their life, and many of them struggling with addictions and just having been on the street so long they don't know anything else. But we also have many who just need a hand up. And so what we would like to see long-term is we would have the MAP program, we would have that shelter-based program, but we also would have transitional housing for people who need it, ensuring they have connections to the programs and resources and supports that they need. That's where we're going. That's where we brought Jackie in to help us bring that vision to reality, because obviously as a board and it not being our full-time gig, we did our best last year, but we're thankful to have that guidance going forward.
Clarification.
Mhm.
Jack, for said that there are statistics show that Slave Lake can have 90. But I see your brochure, it says, 106 different individuals were housed last year. Where it's come from, are they other locals or do you see they only have 19?
That was that order. So we were running this, program, right, center. Like Daniel said, we have people that would come in out of town, come out of town, and they converted gold and there's no place, so they go to the master plan. We do have people that are meeting that left behind in the day, so they're there to temporarily tell you to get right back. So that's why there's such high number, is because there's so many different situations. It's not that they're homeless and they like all the time, they just come in to get stuff here, they can find, and then they go home. And they put the traffic or possibly,
Yeah, so it depends how we define homeless, how we identified them when the census was done, because there's obviously variations. Mhm.
It says you implemented trauma. Experiencing housing instability.
Well, a trauma-informed approach is a recognition of the fact that there's nobody who's lived on the streets who hasn't experienced some form of trauma. As Jackie said, the vast majority have come from Indigenous ancestry, many of who have very direct relationships with residential school, either themselves for some of the ones who are older, or like their parents. So we don't have to go very far back for that in terms of some of the trauma that they experience. So a trauma-informed approach is basically coming at it in full recognition of that and working with them to get the supports and the healing that they need in order to be more successful, in order to move forward, and at the very least, at least to experience more peace in their lives. Mhm.
It's always fight response. And so they can't make recommendations. So if over a period of 2 weeks, they have a stable place to stay, and they have someone who's looking out for them, they can begin to make rational decisions. You can begin to talk to them in such a way as to get them to move forward. Now, are we gonna have success with everyone? No, but that's what we call an informed approach.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, because I might disagree with you a little bit, Sue, that a lot of it is your attitude and how you deal with people. So our security staff will be trained in a trauma-informed perspective. Are people expected to follow rules? Absolutely, yes. But how they're approached in dealing with any violations around that will come from a trauma-informed perspective. It's just the way that you approach and deal with them.
It's an empathetic approach.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, the difference between really super authoritarian versus empathetic parenting, same kind of idea, right? That will treat them with that caring parent who has very firm boundaries, but like with the idea that you want, and we're not their parent. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but it's the best example I could think of that we often have in terms of our life, that in terms of how we deal with that. So schools are looking towards doing trauma-informed perspectives. Healthcare is looking to do a trauma-informed perspective kind of broadly across the whole entire service industry. And we have the opportunity, even if they're only there from 9 till or from 6 till 9, to connect them with people in WJS or in other social services organizations and that kind of thing, to help build their network so they have the opportunity for that. So I think you can have a trauma-informed perspective even if it is only from 6 at night till 9 in the morning. So Edith, go ahead.
And we are looking at part of the funding is for a program, support worker to work with the homeless that is the program. It all depends on funding. And until the funding comes through, we can't guarantee that, but that is ultimately what we're looking at. And so if we get that funding, we will hire that person that will do more of that outreach work with the people that come to that program, connect them to all of the services that Danielle was just talking about. But it is, this is going to be fun. And I really think that that's the message that we're trying to get across. It needs time, it needs understanding, and it needs. That's my way.
Long term, we definitely need a permanent place, but we definitely need a temporary place for this winter
Now,
as well.
start this one, and
Mhm.
what they do there. What is- I hear a lot, homeless are being sent towards them. Is the, that's under the student support fund? Or is the homeschool working with them? Making sure that they can handle what's being sent over.
So the homeless individuals will not be sent directly to Barb. She has mentioned to me that if they stop by for coffee, that'll be okay. And the other part of your question, I think that's a conversation you need to have with the town, whether it's a CAO or town council, but it's above
Mhm.
the homeless coalition and it's above Danielle and
Yeah.
I.
And I think it's important to recognize, we talked about the limited funding that we have. There's very limited sources for that, but Jackie's exploring every single one of them because the town doesn't get additional funds for that. I'm really thankful for the support we're getting for this program. They're actually both in terms of the commitment of their staff supporting us with that, helping us through the development process and providing the trailer and the services. Like I think they're pitching in quite a bit at this point. I'm so thankful for anything the Friendship Center can offer, but we're not assuming that they can be there, just like they're not assuming that we can be there, because we all can only do what we can with the resources that we have. But ideally, we are trying, as Ida said, to get more funding so that we can offer more programming, and then there'll be less pressure on the Friendship Center, and we'll continue to hopefully only take advantage of some of the services that they offer that aren't on the side of their desks. So, yeah. I know you do so much already, and it is amazing. And so I'm going to ask for donations for us at the end, but feel free to donate to the Friendship Center too, because it's an important organization. I'm always thankful to do so. I know you want to. I also know I passed over Sherry just a little while ago, so I'll be right to you. Okay. No, actually, I'm going to
I
turn
think he's here somewhere.
Letting us. And volunteers, Sister Janice here, she's a great volunteer. Last year they cooked about every 2 weeks. They made meals, they froze them, and then that's what they did that program for their dinner meals. As graciously, as I said to Ms. Mead, he was all in full, but he did it very well. As volunteer time and its expertise, team, and I really like to share my deep appreciation for all of the staff
Yes.
who live with them, so I know how much is involved in getting it all done. And yes, the Friendship Center is great at letting the team come through, and we do work with the funding that we have to try and provide some support to the Friendship Center police at the kitchen when we come in and do the meal preparation. So it's been all volunteer hours.
No.
Yeah, the homeless coalition.
Purchases the
Yeah.
groceries that are used to prepare. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
I don't know if I can speak for the rest of it.
Mhm.
We, as business people, are very fond of settings, but that's pretty much. And any part of the issue, something maybe is, we haven't seen anything concrete that says, okay, we spoke about security light. We've spoken about cameras and stuff. I want to see that security plan. I want to see what you guys are putting in place to, try to best mitigate any manipulations.
Mhm.
But if you have something like that, maybe, the fish works and what she's going.
So right now because we're going to an appeal, all of our planning process has basically come to a stop. Until we get through this appeal process and find out yay or nay, we have approval to continue this year. Everything is kind of just sitting right now in a temporary limbo.
Mhm.
If the appeal process goes through, I will gladly have a meeting with all businesses or just yourself, and I can show you everything laid out on
Yeah.
paper. I can give you a copy, just so you know, but
If you want to get us on board. Show us the map, show us. the
Can, for
whole-
sure.
Help us.
I can for sure.
We'll do it, help us.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this group of them. But as business people,
Mhm.
like, we're. Like, that's pretty hard.
Mhm.
You know, that's Scott, and, you know, Calvin, you know, who's the like, there's somebody. We are good practice. Give us something.
Yep.
Like that. You guys know.
Okay, and we
Yeah.
can for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think,
It's fun either.
yeah, well, so there's a couple things that I want to add. Us providing the shelter won't impact a lot of the crime in terms of, like Don said, that the people who have typically participated in our program are not the people who do that. Having said that, I fully understand what your concerns are, and I don't want to dismiss them. So with that, I open by saying we want to be good neighbors and we want to be good community members. And we have a very strong commitment to you to work together to mitigate any issues that come up, and that we're working to ensure that there's a plan right at the front end to minimize that as well. So you can look at it, you might want to tweak it, but it was built with the intention to build in some of that. We have the security, like we said, we have the security cameras, we have the lighting. We can tweak that plan. We want to be good neighbors. We want to work with you. We don't want it to be, you know, an acrimonious relationship in any way. So that might mean tweaking things as we go along too, right? As issues come up, come to us immediately so that we can work together to come up with a plan. Do we use different fencing? Do we do it differently? Do we need to put the cameras in different places? Do we need to put lights? And we'll learn about some of that to some extent as we go as well. Mhm. Mhm.
Big Macs and Phillips and people who are gonna.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm.
But you guys are still getting your feet underneath them.
Mhm.
This is maybe we share at home.
Mhm.
Right? Do this, we'll do a lot of stuff, similar to kind of want. So don't engage us to come and tell us, this is gonna happen, and we just say, how can we help? In the
Mhm.
last situations, but here, what do you think the risks are? How do you best, Apex and fight for it,
Mhm.
some fencing or
Yeah.
something to help mitigate that against the loss.
Yeah. And you are not wrong about ideal approaches to this. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand best practices in doing this engagement would have been that we could have started. We've had this issue where each year we have a temporary location. We're trying to figure this out. That is legitimately why we hired Jackie, so we could get in front of this, but she only started. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong that we didn't follow probably what should have been best practices in terms of this engagement. So where we're left is having those conversations now because of the fact that it just is what it is in terms of the capacity of what a volunteer board was who didn't have Jackie until September in terms of doing that. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I love to hear that. And we will have the conversations with you. You will have access to that information. We will take your feedback. Yeah. Yeah, we can have those proactive conversations right up in front. I think, although what Jackie said was investing the time and energy into the planning when there's like an appeal, that's a very real appeal that needs to go through the process. Everything basically came to a halt at that point. So we have some information. Do we have it nailed down to the detail? You probably want to see no. But I think we can commit that Jackie will meet with you the day after the appeal if it falls in our favor. Or, you know, within a couple of weeks after that, reasonable timing for both of your availability, but to have a look at that and take your feedback seriously. When we looked at being potentially at St. Peter's Ecumenical Church last year, it ended up falling through. They had very specific requirements around what the fence was and where the cameras were. We 100% complied with that, right? Because we want to be a good neighbor. We want to respect everyone. We want to work with it. We don't want issues any more than you do, right? Because we want the program to have a good reputation. We want it to be successful. We want it to run well. So when we have that permanent facility, it all goes well. So honestly, the last thing we want is anything bad coming out of this. So please share any feedback you have with us because we want it to go well for you. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it was, they
Mhm. Mhm. That's where we're going. That's just not where we are. Yeah. 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 Mhm. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. 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 So, you're right. We need a long-term solution. And are we looking at all the different models out there to figure out what will work for Slave Lake? Yes. Will it involve a crap ton more of engagement with the community? Yes, absolutely. That's where we're going. But this is once again, until we get to that point, we need an interim solution for this winter, and it's October 25th already, and this is where we're at. So that's where we're at. But this is Don. Feel free to talk to him afterwards about your concerns, please, God. Sorry, Don, I'm totally throwing you under the bus, but you can direct her to the right place. I don't expect you to fix everything tonight. But Jewel wanted to talk as well. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, we've always had that.
Mhm.
It's really. So, but I'm really excited about what I'm hearing, from the business. It sounds really, we had a multi-stakeholder group for a long time, and I hope, or a total request for that, should get a public meeting again, or for people to have input. There's massive work going on the policy procedures that process reporting some of that, and, you know, people are having their interest like this. Yeah, there's policy and procedures, it's really where it's at. So right now, making sure that we're developing community input is so important. This is where you have to develop the plan, what's the need, so.
Mhm.
I know we always had that, need to involve the community in those plans and thinking of that in procedure, whether it's from town or the town. Yeah, there's a lot of different groups that are doing different stuff. But yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions is, will there be public meetings again?
Mhm.
And also, when it's tough.
Yeah, so public meetings is definitely something we do want to keep going with.
I mean, I think it's fair to say once we get through this emergent process, and especially once we have programming up again, then there absolutely will be the public meetings. As to when the shelter opens, well, we'll wait for the outcome of the hearing, and assuming that goes well, then I think we're
Aiming for mid-November.
Mhm.
Our goal, so I know, Our goal was beginning of November. But our appeal date is this Thursday, which is the 27th. And then they have 2 weeks to make a decision, which puts us into the second week of November. So if the appeal goes through and we find out, we are fully prepared to hit the ground running. And have all of our, our I's dotted, our T's crossed between now and the beginning of November. But we just need the approval from the appeal board.
Yeah, well, just going back to what you said about in the winter, because below whatever degrees and it's emergency. Statewide, you may have to stay over. So, but here we are looking at his November opening. We've already lost this fall. So, we're already losing lives. Because it's getting pushed back. Yeah, so I hope that there's some lobbying going on with the minister and with workers, and it's even called out anymore, maybe they change something else, but yeah, do they realize the process is costing people's lives? It's delayed and ongoing phase. It's actually.
Part of that's question. I know that we've done it for many years, not programming stuff. Lots of what's happening, I think, is. Well, there's lots of good people in the system, and there's probably lots of bad people in the system. And with your experience, when it becomes 30 and 40 below, it doesn't matter if you're good or bad, you're all looking for one place to stay, right? What kind of good people are not worried about? We're worried about people that cause problems. This isn't going to be something new this year. Bad people are going to be looking for one place to stay too. What kind of issues?
And I know Barb can speak to this, but I want to jump in and say this is a lot about our policy and for our security and dealing with this, right? Like if we have really strong expectations around behavior of people who are in a program, we worked very closely with the RCMP, and they're happy to intervene with us if one of our participants is more than misbehaving, but, to the point where it needs the RCMP intervention. So the expectations around behavior stand, right?
I'm just asking for all the years that she's been doing, what's some of
You keep them in line.
No matter how bad they are, they talk to us. I've had some pretty nice guys there, and at the end of the day, come and help you. We can help them. It's how you treat them. They turn around and they help. If I have a real bad situation, I go on. If I have a problem, I will not, and I'll be on the side. The Cobar Hotel for the night, and that's what happened. They didn't have the problem. But we made it as comfortable as possible for all.
That compassionate enforcement, yeah.
It's just how we treat them. And they love this. Law against them every night, like the amount of their age, their ethnicity, when they can come out. And I all that. When it was one of them.
We did.
I didn't have to. No, the work, and you fight the way. And that's what we do.
It's new. Why if there was an organization already? Why did the town, afford to help that organization?
Again, that's a question for the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that the Friendship Center did an amazing job with not enough resources for a really long time. So we managed to get some support for funding for Jackie, but Barb never had a single penny for doing all of the admin work for it. The Friendship Center absorbed all those costs. And at some point, they weren't even able to meet the rest of their mandates because it was taking up too much time. So not enough resources. And then the expectation that it'd be at the Friendship Center was a problem because it was never intended as a location to be the long term. So. It was for 5 years. Yeah.
And then, couldn't find another place for that, and I couldn't find a place, and every year, we always had the homeless issue. But every year, it was always the same thing, we talked to April, our goal was to find a place, and we could never find a place. It's always been about those places, and after 5 years of fight, and trying to get the proper space for the homeless, I did find one, but it was huge, we lost it. There was no cost in the road lately. I had the old medical clinic where the upstairs was going to the treatment and 18 folks who received housing. The basement was also going to be the hospital. That's what you talked about. And so after that, I said, that broke my heart because I spent so many hours this document in meetings trying to get that building. I got it. It was not.
That's the ones.
It is hard to be able to know.
In the Northeast. Yeah. Yeah. So the Friendship Center went it alone, and Barb essentially went it alone for a long time because, like I said, it wasn't in the Friendship Center mandate. They didn't get funding to do that. So all the administration in terms of doing that, she did a lot of the security on her own, volunteering a lot of it, and it was important that the community come together. And so it not be all on Barb and not all on the Friendship Center, and that it went broader than that. And that's where the coalition came from. Mhm.
Why? There's experience here, and obviously you guys needed to gain experience over there. Why is this two separate things?
Well,
We all know like we're volunteers.
you're right. And volunteers get tapped out, and we ask Barb for advice and expertise and help as often as we can. Mhm.
Yeah, because I haven't really been involved, like, no, they're not taking it advice.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And Barb and I,
Mhm.
so one of the first things I did when I did get this role was reach out to Barb. She met me at the Friendship Center, and we did have a good conversation. Today, again, we spoke. So it is something that hopefully her and I can develop a partnership. She's also the busiest woman on the planet, and doesn't have time to take on any more commitments. So I'm going to try to work under her guidance and hopefully she'll just take me under her wing and show me the ropes. But we are going to try to work on a partnership. What that's going to look like down the road, I don't know 100%, but Barb's guidance is definitely there.
That doesn't mean.
No,
No, no,
just her mentor.
right.
her
I mean,
mentorship
I think the
and-
point is it was all the Friendship Center and all Barb before. And so we see the Friendship Center and we see Barb as an important
We do.
resource, an important partner in the community. And I ask Barb questions whenever I need to. And so does Jackie. But the board, as far as I understand, the board of the Friendship Center said, we have our own mandates, we have our own things to deal with. You're not going to spend all your time on it anymore. And I can respect that. And I'll continue to donate to the Friendship Center because they do amazing work outside of what we do. There's a lot of different organizations. No one can bear all of it. So we should all be working collaboratively together. WJS works with us, the RCMP works with us, the Friendship Center works with us. I can't, we've got more partners than that, but the point is something of this scale with the lack of government support that we have requires a massive amount of collaboration. And we respect that. It's not all on Barb anymore.
Go back to the businesses. I recommend this, come on the board, on the committee. And you'll understand what's going on and points and make recommendations for the community as well. I'm just wondering how it is.
Yeah, and then we try to think on it. And I know some questions. Everyone has to at least be acknowledged what you guys are trying to do and respect it. Right, and we do have some questions along that I hope I'm taking that context. I'll already myself personally I've learned a lot. Well, the Township Center and learned a lot of challenges. I'm sure a few of us can jump on and try to help both in planning and funding and all sorts of different avenues, right?
And that's greatly appreciated. I'm so glad to hear that.
Security aspect, well, who's your own safety as well.
Yeah, no, and like I said, Murray and down and the vast majority of the people that use it. And swear, we people call it, I don't.
I can assure you what I was a map program. They know who I am. I know who they are. One thing. Are on the wrong side of the fence. They disappear.
Yeah, no, and at the end of the day, minus 40, it's, and hopefully there's that's what we all for it. We hope that everyone has a warm bed, sleep at night. And respect, that's not easy. But it's out of the location. I've heard that word location coming down this way. It's obviously that we would make.
It is.
The case as a community, we all
Yeah.
need to come together and find a solution. We need to find a proper location. And we will have this maybe effect. I don't mind that, right? But every time we turn around, we're supposed to, I don't want to come back. We have to have it solution. We need to process and provide a proper shelter and accommodations for. We are all one step from the end. Okay, so. we need to get that into consideration.
Yeah, and we talked about it, getting in front of the issues, right? Like making sure we have the conversations, and if you run into any issues at all, we want to know, but we also want to have those conversations in advance. And I think that's the important part is that we do that. Okay. Okay, so first of all, this will transition to the next phase of the meeting, which is me to say, anybody who's here has heard that this is a lot of work. And it takes a lot of time, but it's very worthwhile. So if any of you have even like an hour once in a while or something to help out, we'll have a volunteer sign up. And Edith, how are we doing the volunteer sign up? You have sheets, right? So Edith will pass around some sheets. All of you have these leaflets. If you want to be part of updates on anything that's happening, just email, and it says executive director at slhcs.ca in the back. If you email that, then Jackie will get that and she'll put you on the list for any updates around any meetings we're having, any new plans that we have, so that everybody is in the loop as to what's going on that as well. And lastly, I think the rest of the society would fire me if I didn't say, if you are able to make a donation to help smooth this out, to make this go better, and also to help us to be able to move forward with that long-term planning, Edith will be happy to take your money off of you. So thank you, everyone, for the conversation. We really, like I said, want to be good neighbors. We want to eradicate homelessness, and we think that those don't have to be mutually exclusive. We can accomplish that and do that by having good conversations together. So,
And my phone number and email are up on the wall, but they're also on these brochures. Please feel free to contact me.
yeah.
The work in progress. It's a work in progress.
When the Canadian Revenue Agency is involved, I cannot guarantee a thing.